All right, today we're going to talk about a really powerful strategy for anyone, and I mean anyone, who wants to build a truly thriving team or community. It's called network weaving, and it's basically the art of intentionally making connections to spark collaboration and drive some real lasting change.
So have you ever wondered about this? I mean, you can have a group just packed with brilliant, talented people, but for some reason, it just never quite gels. Well, the answer, it turns out, often has way less to do with the people themselves and everything to do with the connections, or, the lack of connections between them.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to look at the common problem that holds most groups back. Then, we'll introduce the hero of our story, the network weaver. After that, we'll get into their super simple two-step playbook. First, how to see your network, and then how to actively shape it. And finally, we'll talk about the incredible impact this can have.
All right, so let's dig into the big problem first. What happens when we just let networks grow on their own? Kind of like a garden without a gardener.
Well, when we leave networks to chance, they do what you see on the left. They form these isolated little clusters. And inside those clusters, ideas get trapped and the whole group just stagnates. But when we intentionally build diverse connections, when we start weaving, we get what's on the right. And that's where you find innovation, resilience, and real collaboration. That's the goal.
Now, inside these little groups, sure, work can get done pretty efficiently because everyone's on the same page. But for the community as a whole, it's a total recipe for stagnation. It's an echo chamber. No new ideas can get in, no innovation gets out, and these huge opportunities for collaboration are just completely missed. It really is like that untended garden, growing in chaotic clumps instead of a healthy, interconnected ecosystem.
So, if letting networks run wild doesn't work, what's the answer? Well, it's to actively manage them. And to do that, you need a special kind of person, the hero of our story, the network weaver.
Now, a network weaver isn't your typical top-down boss. Not at all. Think of them more as a catalyst. There's someone with the vision and the energy to see all the disconnected parts and intentionally start building bridges between them. They basically take responsibility for the health of the entire network. So how does a weaver actually do this? It's not some kind of magic. It's a really simple two-step process. First, you know the network. You make it visible. Then, you knit the network. You actively start building the connections. That's it. Know it, then knit it. Let's break down each of these steps.
Okay, so let's jump into step 1. Before you can change anything, you have to actually see it clearly. This is all about getting a kind of X-ray vision into the social DNA of your community.
Think about it. You wouldn't try to find your way around a new city without a map, right? So why would you try to navigate a complex human system without one? A network map is your most essential tool. It takes that invisible web of relationships and puts it right there on paper, making it visible and creating this powerful document that gets everyone talking about what's really going on. And once you have this map, boom, you get these incredible insights. It doesn't just show you who knows who, it reveals the hidden social structure. You can instantly see who the real innovators are, where the communication bottlenecks are, and, this is so important, who is being left out entirely. Answering these questions is the absolute first step toward taking strategic action.
Okay, so once you have your map, once you can actually see the network, you can start the active process of knitting. And this whole journey usually unfolds in 4 pretty clear phases.
So this whole process, it's an evolution. A network starts out as scattered, isolated clusters in phase 1. Then it moves to a connected but pretty fragile hub-and-spoke model in phase 2. The real goal is to get to a resilient multi-hub network in phase 3, and then finally to a thriving core/periphery ecosystem in phase 4. Let's look at each one up close.
Okay, phase 1. This is pretty much the default state where most groups start out. You can see those small, disconnected clusters we talked about earlier. They're usually formed out of necessity or maybe a common interest. But left on its own, this structure is super fragile, and the community just isn't reaching its full potential.
Now watch what happens. The network weaver steps in and becomes that central hub, actively creating new ways for those isolated clusters to interact. They start bringing in outside resources, and for the first time, information really starts to flow through the entire network.
But, and this is a huge but, you have to see the hub-and-spoke model as a temporary step, not the final destination. It's a necessary phase, for sure, but it's incredibly vulnerable. All the connections are concentrated in one place. If that one weaver gets burnt out or decides to leave, the whole network can just collapse right back to phase 1. So, to get to the next phase, we need to talk about the power of weak ties. Your closest friends, your strong ties, they probably know the same stuff you do. But it's that acquaintance, the friend of a friend, that's the weak tie. And that's often the person who connects you to a totally new idea or a job opportunity. A weaver's next job is to build more of these bridges. And this is the real game changer. The original weaver's job shifts. They go from being the central connector to being a facilitator. They start connecting clusters directly to each other, and most importantly, they teach other people how to weave. This creates multiple hubs, gets rid of that single point of failure, and builds a way more resilient and intelligent network. And finally, we get here. The network matures into this beautiful, sustainable structure. You've got a dense, interconnected core of key collaborators who can actually get things done. And they're surrounded by this diverse periphery which acts like the network's eyes and ears, scanning the horizon for new ideas, new people, and new resources. This is a system that's built for both stability and innovation.
So that's the 4-phase playbook. But you might be asking, why go through all this trouble? Well, the real impact of weaving goes way beyond just making a group more efficient. It fundamentally transforms what that group is even capable of.
See, the ultimate goal here isn't just to make a tidy diagram, it's to grow a living system. When you build a network with this much trust and collaboration, something amazing starts to happen. You get what's called emergence. Think of a flock of birds. No single bird is in charge, but their simple interactions create these complex, beautiful patterns. A well-woven network does the same exact thing for ideas and action. And look, this can be super practical. You can start small by being an innovation catalyst, just helping connect the right people to get a new project started. You could zoom out and work with other groups to map the entire system you're all a part of. Or you could partner with other networks on connected experiments to tackle problems you both share. Every single one of these actions knits the network just a little bit tighter. This quote from June Hawley, who's a real pioneer in this field, just says it all perfectly. The transformation isn't just about the final outcome. The very process of building these connections, of changing how and with whom we interact, that is the transformation.
So, we've laid out the problem, the solution, and the step-by-step process. This is a real, actionable guide for anyone looking to build a stronger team, a more innovative company, or a more vibrant community. The playbook is in your hands now. So the only question left is, how will you start weaving?